everybody, I'm Sarah and welcome or welcome back to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to crochet the Colorado Sunset Wrap Shawl. Now this is a very versatile pattern because it can be made like a cape, a shawl, a scarf, or even a skirt. And that's the neat thing about this pattern. It's basically stitched in a long rectangle using this stitch pattern. Now this crochet stitch pattern is sometimes called the window pane or the open window. It can be stitched in a variety of different ways using maybe 2, 3, or 4 double crochets and chain 2 spaces. This is a very basic pattern that anybody of any skill level will enjoy, whether you're a beginner or a seasoned crocheter. 2 double crochets with a chain 2 and 2 double crochets repeated throughout the pattern. I really love it. I think it's perfect for this crochet project. Now the rectangle that we're making will measure approximately 16 inches long and 42 inches wide. And it's super easy to adjust that if you want it to be wider or more narrow, longer or shorter. You can find all the multiples and the information on adjusting the pattern for however you want it. And you can find the written pattern with pictures and all that information, as always, down in the notes underneath this video. Just click that link that's provided. To make your Colorado Sunset Wrap Shawl, you're going to need about 7 ounces or approximately 400 yards of a medium weight number 4 yarn. Now I chose to use this yarn. It's Yarnspirations by Karen Big Cakes. The colorway is called Toffee Brittle. And I chose this one because the pattern that I originally designed had a different yarn. And I really love that yarn, but it's no longer available. And so I searched until I found something that I really liked that I thought worked great for this pattern. And I think this one does. And I loved that it still has sunset colors in it with the golds and the oranges and the rust color, and then it has this gray and blue that reminds me of the sky, and I really think it's really pretty and it works great for this project. You can use any medium weight number 4 yarn that you have in your yarn stash. So any of your medium weight number 4 cake yarns, ombre, striping yarns, or even if you want to make it in solid, will work just fine. I just really like this one. All right, so you need about 7 ounces of a medium weight number 4 yarn. We're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need your scissors, and then you need a needle just to weave in your ends. And that's all you need to make our Colorado Sunset Wrap Shawl. We're going to begin with foundation double crochets. And to make a foundation double crochets, we're going to begin with our slip knot. And we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over. We're going to go in the 4th chain from the hook, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and only go through that first loop. We created our chain. Now we're going to yarn over and go through the next 2, yarn over and go through the last 2. So we stitched our chain and then our double crochet. Yarn over, we're going to go through that chain that we made and pull up a loop. Yarn over and only go through that first loop. Yarn over, go through the next 2, yarn over and go through the next 2. And this is how you stitch the foundation double crochet. And we're choosing to use the foundation double crochet to begin our wrap shawl is because we wanted to have just a little bit of a stretchy edge. Yarn over, go in the chain that you made, pull up a loop, yarn over and only go through that first loop. Yarn over, go through the next two, yarn over and go through the last two loops. Again, this is how you stitch the foundation double crochet. Now you're going to need to stitch 130 foundation double crochets. And what you can do to help keep track of your stitches is grab your stitch markers, and what I do is I'll stitch 10 or 20 stitches and then I'll mark that with my stitch marker. Then I don't have to keep recounting. I can just keep going, knowing that when I marked it with that stitch marker, I had 10 or 20 stitches. All right, now I will not be stitching 130 at this point because I'm going to make a demo for the beginning of this video. All right, so I'm going to be doing 30 foundation double crochets for the demo, but you need to stitch 130 foundation double crochets, unless you want to make it bigger, of course. And again, you can find all that information on that link provided underneath the video. I stitched 30 foundation double crochets. Now remember, I'm doing a demo of just 30 stitches. You need to have 130 foundation double crochets. We're going to chain 3. Also remember, this beginning chain 3 counted as our first foundation double crochet. Just want to remind you of that. All right, our chain 3 always counts as our first double crochet. So we're going to turn our work and we're just going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of the foundation double crochets all the way across. This will become the bottom edge of our wrap, shawl, cape, skirt, whatever we're going to call it, because it is a very versatile pattern. All right, so 1 double crochet in each of the foundation double crochets all the way across. I have stitched 1 double crochet in each of our foundation double crochets across, and I'm going to chain 3. Again, our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet on our next row. I'm going to double crochet in the next stitch, and now we're going to begin our window pane or open window crochet stitch pattern. We're going to chain 2. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches and double crochet in the next 2. Chain 2, skip 2, and double crochet in the next 2. And repeat. Chain 2, skip 2, and 1 double crochet in the next 2. And you'll repeat this working all the way across your row. And see how it makes those open spots that look like open windows? You'll stitch that working all the way across, 1 double crochet in the next 2, chain 2, skip 2, and repeat. And when you get to the end, here's my last chain 2, skip 2, and 1 double crochet in the last 2 stitches. Now again, I'm working on a demo, so I only have 30 double crochets, but you're going to have 130 not double crochets, but stitches. The stitch count is going to remain the same for the entire wrap shawl, because even though we're making chain 2 spaces, we still have the same amount of stitches across. And again, I'm doing a swatch of 30. You're going to have 130 stitches. All right, I chained 3 and turn. Now we're going to double crochet in the next double crochet, and again our chain 3 counts as our first. We're going to chain 2 and then double crochet in the 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And chain 2. And then we'll repeat this, working all the way across. Chain 2. You'll skip that chain 2 and stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets. And we'll repeat this, working all the way across our row. 1 double crochet in the next 2, chain 2, and repeat. I have repeated that all the way across on my demo. 2 double crochets, 1 in each of the 2, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2 all the way across. And we come to our end, we have our chain 2, and then we double crochet in the last 2 stitches. 1 and 2. And again, chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. Turn our work. Now we're going to do row 5. Our chain 3 again counts as our first double crochet, and then we're going to double crochet in the double crochet, and then repeat what we did on row 4. Chain 2, 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets. Chain 2, 1 double crochet in each of the next 2 double crochets. Chain 2 and repeat across our row. And see how that looks? How we're all stacked up with our open window panes. So we'll repeat this all the way across for row 5. 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets, chain 2, and repeat. And again, let me repeat, this is just a swatch of 30 stitches, and you need to still have 130 stitches for your project. So what we're going to do is we're going to continue to repeat row 4 like we did on row 5 for 22 more rows. All right, and that's going to get you about a 16-inch in your length for your shawl. Now, if you want that to be longer, you can do as many rows as you would like. So we're going to continue to repeat row 4 for 22 additional or more rows. Here is my actual Colorado Sunset wrap. And here is where I began, down here with those foundation double crochet row and then my regular row, and then my window pane or open window stitches, and I did those additional 22, so that brings us up to row 27. Again, if you want your wrap to be longer, you can measure this. It should measure about 16 inches. Actually, it'll measure about 15 because we're going to add another row and trim, and then it will measure about 16 when we're finished. But if you want this to be longer, you want it to be a longer shawl, or maybe you're going to use it as that skirt over your swimsuit or something, and you want it to be a little longer, you can add as many rows as you would like for the length. And then once you have reached the length that you want, we're going to chain 3, and then we're going to do a solid row of double crochet across the top of our wrap shawl. And I will be working on my actual wrap shawl for the rest of the video. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. We'll double crochet in the next double crochet, and then we'll stitch 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space. 1 and 2. 1 double crochet in the next 2 double crochets, and 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space. 1 and 2. And then we'll just repeat this, working all the way across our row. And this will give us a nice solid row of double crochet for the top of our shawl. One double crochet in the first 2, 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space, 1 double crochet in the next 2, 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space, and then we'll repeat that, working all the way across our whole row. And again, from here on out, I will be working on my actual Colorado Sunset wrap shawl. I completed the top row, stitching 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets, and then 2 double crochets in each of the chain 2 spaces. And this is going to get you back to your 130 stitches. Now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to evenly double crochet down the side. All right, so what we'll do is we'll stitch 2 more double crochets in this last stitch that we just stitched a double crochet. Move this over here. And that's going to make it so that it moves smoothly around this corner. And now we're going to evenly double crochet down this side. And this can be a little bit challenging because we're stitching in double crochet stitches. And so what I do is I try my best to stitch in the side of the stitch itself and not the holes. And when you're stitching evenly, there really is not a set amount of stitches. You just want to look at it and try your best to get them nice and even. If you stitch in these holes, it's not a horrible thing. It just doesn't lay as pretty as if you try to stitch in the sides of the stitches. So the way I do it is I stitch in the side of the double crochet stitch itself, and then I stitch in the spot where that double crochet is stitched. And I think that makes it lay nice and pretty. And then I'll just keep on evenly stitching double crochets down the side of our work. And like I said, the main thing is that you stitch evenly and try to stitch in the sides of those stitches so it looks nice and pretty. You don't want them bunched up, and you don't want too much space in between. And we'll just keep right on doing that till we get to the bottom edge of our shawl. I stitched down the side of my wrap, evenly double crocheting. When I got to the end, I stitched 1 stitch in that corner. We're going to chain 3 and turn our work. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each of those stitches we just stitched and work back up to the top of our shawl. All right. right, so our chain 3 counts as our first, and we'll stitch 1 double crochet in each of the double crochets, working back up to the top of our wrap shawl. One double crochet in each of the double crochets, working all the way back up to the top of our wrap shawl. We chained 3, and then we stitched 1 double crochet in each double crochet, working back down. Now we're going to turn our work, and we're going to stitch 2 more double crochets in this corner. And then we're going to stitch back across that row of double crochets that we stitched along our pattern. All right, so 1 double crochet in each of those stitches across. I stitched across that row, so now we have 2 rows of double crochet like we do on this end. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to stitch down this side the same way we did on this side. We're going to put 3 double crochets in the corner, then we'll evenly stitch down the side. When we get to the bottom, we'll chain 3, we'll turn and then stitch a row of double crochets, working back up here, and then we'll tie off and weave in our end. All right, so I'm going to repeat on this side what I did on this side, which is 2 rows of double crochet. I evenly double crocheted down this second side, chain 3, turn, and then 1 double crochet in each of those double crochets. This brings us back up here to the top. Here's my last stitch, and we want to tie off, but I want to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then join back in. That's going to help it lay just a little bit better. And we'll go ahead and cut that yarn. And I'm going to go in from the back and pull that loop in and tie off. And now, because we've done this whole wrap with only 2 ends, we only have 2 ends to weave in, where we started and where we ended. So I'm going to weave this in, and then I'm going to show you how to make that tie so that it lays really pretty and is versatile in the way you can use it. So I've completed all the trim on the wrap shawl. Here is the top, and of course the bottom. All right, now we need to make a drawstring, and we're going to make a drawstring so that we can draw in the top and use it for whatever purpose that we want. Now, if you don't want to use it with a drawstring, you can wear it just like this as a shawl or as a scarf. All right, but I'm going to show you by adding that drawstring how you can change what you can do with this project. To make the drawstring, we're going to be using 2 strands of our yarn. All right, so we'll start with our slip knot. And we're going to chain 230 chains. Again, if you have trouble keeping track of your chains, you can always grab your stitch markers and mark it every 20 or 30 or 10, whatever works best for you. All right, one thing to remember when doing this chain is we want it to be nice and snug, so you're going to have to hold those 2 together nice and snug. We don't want any drooping or gaping chains. We want them to be nice and uniform so that it looks pretty when we tie it on. All right, so there's 10. There's 20. So we're going to chain 230 chains using 2 strands of our yarn. So I have chained 230 chains, and I marked every 50 stitches, and of course I had 30 on the end. So 230 chains using 2 strands of yarn. That gives us a nice sturdy drawstring. All right, so we're going to go ahead and cut those off. And again, if you want your drawstring longer, make it longer. All right, so we cut that off. We're going to tie a nice tight knot in the end. Give it a good hard pull. Make sure that's not going to come out, and just give it a clip. All right, now we're going to do the other end. Make sure it's nice and sturdy and not going to come undone. Nice hard pull and give it a clip. All right, so now our drawstring is ready to thread through the top of our wrap shawl. So now we're just going to lace it through, and I like to go about every 2 stitches. We're going to begin here, and I want my tie to end here, so we'll go ahead and pull this through. And we'll leave some of that out because, of course, we're going to gather it up. All right, and so what I do is I take the end of my crochet hook and I go the opposite direction and go in and out every 2 double crochet stitches. And I find that that makes it just a little bit easier to pull it through. There we go. Because you are working with a little bit thicker yarn because we have 2 strands of chain. And then like I said, I just go backwards. Going in and out every 2 double crochet stitches. I do a few, grab the end of it, and just work it through. And of course, the amount of gather is up to you, especially if you're going to use it as a skirt or as a shawl or a cape. It's going to gather differently, and that's what gives us some of the versatility in this project. So I'm going to continue working this through, weaving it in every 2 double crochet stitches. I have my tie all weaved through the top of my wrap shawl. And of course, the amount of gather is up to you and what you're going to wear it as. My favorite way to wear this one is as a cape shawl. And I like to just tie the top up here into a bow like this. And then I kind of turn it over just so that it's not completely even. And then it kind of sits over to the side of my shoulder. This is also a nice way to tie it if you're going to wear it as a skirt, say over some shorts or a bathing suit, just to add some fun flair. And you can leave the tie in even if you're wearing it as a wrap or shawl. It's totally up to you. Sometimes I just take it like this and leave it just hanging and wear it as a wrap shawl, or I might put a bow in each end so it doesn't come out. There are lots of options and ways to wear the Colorado Sunset wrap shawl.